straight into it then. I've landed myself a brief half an hour where I can just quickly talk and do a Q&A off the back of finishing the Heritage Defender. There's not a full vlog on this. I've not documented the full process. I have some before conditioned the swirls and the abrasions on the near side rear panel, which you will see at the end of this brief Q&A, but I've just been mindful that there have been a few questions that need catching up on. So one of the first questions, it's coming in quite a lot. I've not really spoken about it in the past. The portable light, so what am I using for the swirl spotting? It started life as a cordless drill. A 12 volt cordless drill. Battery pack goes in charge most mornings and it's extremely bright. It's actually a do-it-yourself job. Those that have been sort of on detailing forums for a while may have seen this, especially on the UK forums, whether or not it made it over the pond and whatnot. But it's a do-it-yourself replica of a well-known branded light which costs 400 or 500 quid. It's the same bulb, I believe. The only difference is really there's not a fan in the actual casing to keep things cool. So if you are going to be using it for prolonged periods of times, I don't know, it might be worth picking two up and making 2 or 3. That aside, I've used the Brinkman in the past, and then there's the little Roops pen torch, which, to be honest, for what it is, it's very expensive. The diameter of the light, that compared to that, I've never been impressed. Yeah, the convenience is there. You can keep it on, you keep it in your pocket, top pocket, but ScanGrit have a portable light out, which is sort of that sort of quality. Not cheap, again, but I will eventually look into the ScanGrit equipment. So yeah, do a quick Google search, do it yourself, detailing swirl spotter, that should flash up the results for you. Jeffrey on YouTube comments, hey Jim, when you're doing the older vehicles, do you check paint depth across the whole thing? With all the repaint and original paint on this car, does it extend your detailing time at all? This was on the 330 E93 series BM, which there was a lot of original paint, there was lots of repainted panels from recently, the repainted panels from who knows when. Yeah, I'm measuring the paint thickness as we work. The paint depth gauge is just there to help highlight areas that have had work and of course low spots in the lacquer when you start to polish, so you know what you've got to work with and how far you can take things before you start compromising thin levels of clear coat. Does it extend the detailing time overall? Having repainted panels, it probably lessened the time. Obviously the original panels on the BM were pretty hard and the original panels were wearing the worst of the scratches. So the scratches on the original panels were there for 11 years or so. It's had a long time to pick up deep marks, whereas the fresh paint, although there was abrasions and marring and swirls on the surface of the fresh paint, it wasn't as hard as the original paint. So the marks that were there, sort of easy to pull off compared to the deeper scratches on the tough clear coat of the original panels. So sometimes if a car has had a fair bit of paint, yeah, it's that no two panels respond the same, so I'll perhaps did the door different to the wing, or did the wing different to the near side wing, because they respond differently. But you just got to sort of treat each panel as its own and do what's required. Next one, hello Mr. White. Hello Tech Talk with Jay. Big fan, I see you use the rotary polisher. Do you not like the Roops hybrid? Yeah, I very much do. I've not yet got one. It is the next purchase I want to make. I like to work with what I've got. I've been trying not to want the hybrid for a long time, but the more I've known about it, the more applications I find potentially for it. The rotary extension bars do have limitations. So sometimes the access for a rotary is you're coming in top down. So all you've got is you've got the body of the polisher and the extension bar with the pad here, but if you've got to get in there to polish here, you're restricted by bringing that extension bar if the body of the panel, terrible example, the side of a Ferrari Testarossa, the fins down the side of the door, I will flash up a picture of this now, you will see exactly what I mean. You're never going to get the rotary extension bar into each of them channels, whereas the hybrid's neck, it allows you to go sort of into and over the top of low channels and then allows you to polish freely as you please. Underneath spoilers as well, if it's a low rise boot spoiler. I will be pricing one up in the very near future. Derek on YouTube, happy birthday Jim. Thank you very much, Derek. Quick question, are you ever going to clean the black scum marks off the wash bucket? It's a bucket, it serves a purpose. There's OCD and there's OCD, and the bucket, it's kicked around the yard and it stores other buckets. So I've got my rinse bucket and my wash bucket are stored in the slid inside of each other. Then I've got another bucket with the wheel brushes and accessories that slid inside of that. When I fill each of the buckets, they're all rinsed out to remove any risk of loose material that may have collected. But I'm not that bothered about a few black scum marks off the wash bucket. Sorry, Derek. Ben Bradbury, what happened to the video / content on the Jaguar F-Pace? How was the OEM paint? Yeah, the F-Pace. It wasn't one that I was going to vlog anyway. I sort of decided that the vlogs were only going to come out on the bigger jobs, the full white details and the major corrections. I've done a few new car preps now already, and the Jag was booked for the new car prep. Stunning bit of kit. It was the F-Pace S in the dark sapphire blue. There was a snippet of it in the last 3 series episode, which is obviously why you're asking, because you saw it there, but no dedicated, no devoted vlog for that car. It came up well. It was the full perfect new car prep example. It was dropped off by the dealership themselves untouched, so they hadn't washed it, they hadn't polished it or prepped it. It arrived very dirty, which meant I was the first person to make contact in the paint and make that safe wash, so it can eliminate the risk of marks being induced elsewhere. So the customer, I hadn't met the customer until the Saturday. The Saturday came round and the customer came to see the car finished, perfect, finalised, and he was over the moon, thrilled. That was great for him to see it here, because on the Monday morning it was driven back to the local Jaguar Land Rover dealership to then be held there for a couple of days before the 1st of March for the new registration. So he picked the car up from the dealership on the Wednesday, and I had a phone call on a voicemail on the Thursday by one very upset owner, and I'm just fearing the worst. I'm thinking that obviously the instruction of the vehicle not to be washed has been ignored, there's been marks and scratches induced, and it's now a case of any rectification. But no, it's worse, unfortunately. So he picked the car up on the Wednesday. The Thursday morning, on the way into the office, the chap, a Vauxhall Corsa went into the side of him. Near side rear wheel damage and the near side rear door. This off the back of the Aston Martin DB11, which if you've not seen the episode on that, it will flash up at the top any second. That was a bit of a sort of a bad start to 1 week, and I was a bit deflated from the damage that had been caused there. Then there was the scratches induced on the Mercedes C63. If you've not seen that episode, that'll flash up here. The windscreen was replaced, and at the point of having the glass replaced, the freshly detailed vehicle had several deep scratches induced, and then the bad news came through about the Jag. So it was all a bit STKS on YouTube. This is the very first vlog I posted on the E46 M3. Looking at this from a body shop / painting background, would you not be better buying some tack cloths to wipe the panels before applying coatings? We have the same requirements, removing particles without leaving the residue. Simply blowing off the panel puts the particles into the air, only to fall again somewhere else in the car. If you want to try some tack cloths, I'd recommend 3M. I've never tried the tack cloths. The reasoning behind using the air source, this place is pretty clean. I keep the floor well swept. It's not as though there's a constant movement of air. The floor is mopped every time the vehicle is brought in from the wash. It's swept all the time. The surfaces are wiped down. The movement of air across the panel to remove the surface dusting and the polish residue, the loose sort of dusty polish residue, it's to remove the risk of inducing scratches by that physical contact. So tack cloth, microfiber towel, that motion of brushing the paint with a cloth is what I want to avoid. So I'm using the airline as a direct replacement of a cloth, in that it's blasting the loose material away from the panel without the need of wiping the panel. I will then go on to wipe the panel with an IPA, an alcohol, isopropyl alcohol panel wipe, which is only prepping the surface ready for the coatings. But before that, I want to make sure there's nothing on the surface that's potentially going to scratch the car. So if I'm just putting a tack cloth over the fragmentations of dust and the foam particles that have come off of the polishing pads, I wouldn't be happy doing that. I'd much rather use the blower or an airline to eliminate that problem. 156 Jacko, what video editing software do you use? I started up until Christmas time, which was the Audi R8 vlog and a trip into town. Up until that point I was using Adobe Premiere Elements, which if you know anything about the Adobe Suite, and Photoshop, which is sort of the imagery editing side of things. Premiere is the video editing, but Photoshop Elements, image. Elements is a cut down version of the full fat Photoshop. Premiere, the video, they do Premiere Elements as well, which again, it's a cut down version of the full fat suite. The full fat thing, you can make a documentary on. It's so advanced, it's mind boggling at first. You sit there and you think, it's quite overwhelming and you don't know where to start, and I literally didn't at first. Over the Christmas period I picked up a new laptop because my current system had limitations with power, and it was just struggling to process sort of the quality of the footage, especially the drone. The drone is shooting 4K footage and the file sizes are massive, so trying to speed change and reverse and cut and crop, readjust these files, it was putting a lot of strain on the desktop PC. And each time I did a speed change, that one individual clip would need rendering before it was able to play back smoothly. So one clip that needs rendering perhaps took 2.5–3 minutes, but that's one clip out of 80, let's say. So it took a lot of time. So the new laptop, it is a powerhouse, and it has eliminated that need of rendering each clip individually as we go. But the software I'm now using, it was Premiere Elements. I'm now using a full fat Premiere CC 2017, Creative Cloud 2017, which is the daddy, it is the bee's knees. And I'm using 5% of the program's functionality. It's insane how advanced you can take things, and it's all mind-boggling and new to me still. But I know the basics, I know how to put the titles and the music, and the shortcuts on the keyboard, they're quite important, so you just need to familiarise yourself with whatever software you use, and the time scales soon start to come down. Wild Bill, hello Jim, firstly I'm not going to compliment your superb workmanship, as that is a given, but those headphones, is it the same music that we occasionally hear, or are they purely for protection? Headphones, yeah, they're on most part of the day. I may be picking up some noise cancelling headphones in the near future, but the Sennheisers, I'm using the wireless Sennheisers, they are just to help drown out the noise of the polishers and to provide some form of entertainment. It may be I'm listening to podcasts, it may be that I'm listening to an audiobook, or it may be that I'm just streaming Spotify all day, or SoundCloud. So the audio tracks you would hear on the videos and the vlogs, they're royalty free, and you've got to do a bit of digging and research to find them. But SoundCloud, I will listen to SoundCloud to find the inspiration, to sometimes stumble across a track which I hear and I think that could work really well. I will like it, I'll save it for later, I'll get home, I'll download it. And if the content is usable, if the producer or are willing to sort of allow that to be used for copyright-free material, then I'll grab it and chuck it into the vlog. Paul Rhodes, just purchased lights to add to my cart like yours. How do you have them mounted, i.e. screws, ties, etc.? Thank you for the time to help those detailed into me. Cool, okay, so the cart, you can just about see it here. I'm gonna have to take you over there. So the Mobile Host S Trolley, this is a fantastic bit of kit. Those that have seen me before know that I take this around the whole car with me. In here I have the polishers. In here we have various accessories. In here we have the anti-vibration gloves, the tickle sticks, and these are linings for the bottom of the trays, which I never got around to using. These were fixed on as a very much temporary measure, just with cable ties, and to be honest I tightened them up at the end of this year just to sort of give them a couple of clicks, and that's all they've needed. They've not moved, they've not wobbled at all. I was going to do some drilling and fix them with bolts, but to be honest the cable ties have been fine. This lamp needs looking at, replacing. So they're all wired into chock boxes, the three here down into that, into there, into a junction, into a plug. 10 watts, and it's just a great mobile source of light to take around the car. So the Heritage, it's been here for 3 days. It was left with me to do what you think is required. And at the time I'd hoped for a single stage polish with the engine bay and interior treatments. It's done 3,500 miles, so it doesn't really need a lot on the interior or the engine bay. But the paintwork needed more than just a single stage. When we took this and put it over the light, put it over the paint, it was clear, it was apparent, it was obvious there was a lot more on the paint than what the owner was aware of. It's a very forgiving colour, obviously, especially the white. You really have to know what you're looking for or have the right light to see the damage. But the damage there is only otherwise robbing and killing the clarity that's hidden underneath the damage on the surface. So two-stage minor paint correction to cut the damage, to refine the damage. Then it's been dressed and protected. The vehicle will leave here on a dry day, if not trailered home, because it is immaculate. The underside of the chassis, the wheels, etc. is immaculate. And then it's going to be used very little for the next 10, 20 years, I'm told, because it will only go up in value, because the Defender has now been finalised. They have a new model coming out altogether, I think, so that 15 years from now will be worth a fair bit of money. I'll run you around the Defender and then decide what I'm doing next. Bye for now.